Ohio Goldwyn, we're going to kick things off with U.S. Hot Rod Association mud racing from Providence, Rhode Island. Once again, the USHRA has the biggest names in mud racing under one roof. Guys like Tom Martin, Paul Schaefer, and Jeremy Finley. The four fastest will compete in the shootout for the championship. Here to describe the action is our pal, Scott Douglas.
Getting ready to do it in the mud in Providence, Rhode Island with the United States Hot Rod Association right here on Super Tracks. And Jeremy Finley is going to be the first to blast into this 80-foot mud pit, the S-Kicker. Finley drives it out of BOONESMILL, Virginia. How fast can he cover 80 feet, and can he stop at 80 feet? Those are the two questions we're about to answer. Oh, a super run, and he does shut her down in time. They love it in Providence. A great run for Jeremy Finley. He calls himself the wild man, and you can see why after this run. Look at that wheel come off the ground. Yet he sets it down, stays firmly in the mud pit, and this is how you stop it in time. You go sideways, you do what you have to, but you make sure you don't hit the barrier at the end of the 80 feet because that gets you disqualified in mud racing. Jeremy Finley and the S-Kicker laying down a shot that I think is going to land him in the shootout a little bit later. The fast four make it, and it's hard to believe four others can beat 1.748 because that's what Finley has just done in the S-Kicker. 1.748, a superb run. Well, we're going to look now at the Let's Boogie machine. This is Tony Fiore out of Canton, Michigan. Let's Boogie is a 1927 T Roadster. Stops it in plenty of time. A good-looking shot for one of the best in the business, Canton, Michigan driver Tony Fiore, and Let's Boogie. We're going to boogie over to the replay section right now to take a look at it again as Tony gets off the line in great shape. Nice, smooth run. Didn't have much of a wiggle in the middle at all. Kept it straight and shuts it down in plenty of time. Let's Boogie coming into your living room right now on Super Tracks. You can see how he kind of gets in the ruts there a little bit of what the S-Kicker laid down, but it didn't bother him at all. And it's a good run, 1.861. He needs to be one of the four fastest to get back in our shootout a little later. He's got a good chance with that run. Mike Spina and the Psychotic Beast next up. He comes out of Kingston, New Hampshire. Time to beat 1.748. Oh yeah, he gets it shut down just in time and throws that right fist in the air. Mike Spina happy about that run as he gets it stopped in time. The Psychotic Beast with a legal run, and we'll see if it holds up as one of the fast four as this day goes on. Watch it again on the replay. Now at the end of the 80-foot mud pit, you can see at the back of the vehicle there's a wire. That's the kill switch. It is actually pulled out of the vehicle at the end of 80 feet, so the engine immediately stops running. But you still got to stop the momentum. And look how close it was for Spina to get her stopped. He does it, though. And the Psychotic Beast has got a run at 1.982. Now remember, it's the four fastest runs in the first round that will get to come back in the shootout and determine our champion here at Providence on Super Tracks. Here's the young phenom of mud racing, 19-year-old Matt Ward in the Mystic Warrior out of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Stops it down in plenty of time. It's a good-looking run from Matt Ward and the Mystic Warrior. So at least for the moment, he'll be no worse than fourth fastest. We'll get a look at the run here on the replay. And Ward looked like he kept it pretty straight, but stopped kind of short in the shutdown area, and that would indicate that he wasn't going quite as fast as he wanted to be. You want to use up most of that shutdown area, because that shows you had all the momentum you could at the end of 80 feet. And you can see here, Matt Ward has shut her down in plenty of time. Still, it looks like it's going to be a good run for Matt Ward and the Mystic Warrior. Coming right at you now as that Ford-powered machine is kicking up the rooster tail of mud here in Providence. Matt Ward, for the moment, will be the third fastest time we've seen so far at 1.906. So the time to beat is now 1.982. Mike Spina and Psychotic Beast will be on the bubble. Midnight Magic and David Ray, placed down New Hampshire, first to go after it. A solid run right there for Midnight Magic. We'll find out if it's good enough to make the Fast Four. You can see the U.S. Hot Rod official come into your screen there. He was disconnecting the cable that allows the U.S. Hot Rod officials to put the kill switch in. We've been talking about a safety factor that the U.S. Hot Rod Association has in all of its mud racing action. On the replay, you look at Dave Ray and Midnight Magic. The question is, was he fast enough to make the Fast Four? He has to get it under 1.982 if he's going to make it into that Fast Four here today. Another Ford-powered machine coming right at you on Super Tracks. Dave Ray, longtime championship veteran here with the U.S. Hot Rod Association. His time, though, is not going to be good enough to make it into our shootout today at 2.050. Again, the time to beat is the fourth best time. The 1.982 is what you've got to beat to get into the shootout. That's what Ron Smith's trying to beat in the Gold Fever 1948 Fiat out of Schoolcraft, Michigan. And good looking run right there for Ron Smith and the Gold Fever. We'll see if it's enough to put him on the gold standard today here in Providence, Rhode Island. Again, you can see the officials unhooking the kill cables from the back of the Gold Fever Fiat while we watch the replay. Ron Smith in good shape in Gold Fever. Again, the time to watch for is, did he beat 1.982? Because that's the fourth best spot so far. Let's get a look at Ron from our end zone camera. Note that he's going to really try to stay in the middle of the mud pit because of that rut on the right. He avoided it, and that was critical to having a successful run. A good shot down the middle, and at least for the moment, he's in the Fast Four, but at 1.952, that just means he goes on the bubble with this big gun coming after him. Paul Schaefer, the Mud Patrol, former Rookie of the Year out of Portage, Indiana. Oh, what a great job in the shutdown area by Paul Schaefer and the Mud Patrol. That's how you use up every inch that you have available to you. You turn it sideways, you stand it up on its nose, whatever you got to do, but you don't break that barrier at the end of the 80-foot shutdown area. And this is a classic example of how you do it. The Mud Patrol is just going to let it spin out and keep it under control sideways. Boy, what a pretty job of shutting her down by Paul Schaefer. Now let's watch the run. Again, as we pointed out with Ron Smith, you want to stay toward the middle. He does that. He stays out of the rut. And it's a good-looking run for the Mud Patrol. Is it good enough to get him in the Fast Four? He had to beat 1.95. Yes, he did. Paul Schaefer, Mud Patrol, 1.929. And at least for the moment, that's good enough to put him into the shootout. The Beef Tea Blue out of Intercourse, Pennsylvania. Here's Alvin Esch. Yes, indeed, he stops it in time. Beef Tea Blue with a legal run, but is it good enough to make it into the Fast Four shootout coming up later on Super Tracks? Beef Tea Blue had to beat a 1.929. Mud Patrol sitting on the bubble with that time. On the replay, Beef Tea Blue looks like he's in good shape, but whether he ever had enough speed is the only question we'll decide here. Another look at Pennsylvania driver Alvin Esch and the Beef Tea Blue. He comes out in pretty good shape, but he catches the rut right there that we've been talking about. That's going to cost him a little bit of time, and when you're talking about fractions, you just can't afford to have that happen. Beef Tea Blue at 1.959. 3/100ths of a second is all he missed the shootout by. Now, the three-time champion, Tom Martin and Super Trooper out of Portage, Indiana. No way that's going to be good enough, as the Super Trooper had all kinds of problems. And I think we're going to find it's that same rut we've been talking about on the right-hand side of the track that cost Tom Martin. Well, really, it looks like it was a bad start that got him, as he just leaped out of the starting block and got himself into the mud pit on air instead of on mud, and you don't want that to happen. Watch the start. All four wheels leave the ground, and then he hits that rut on the right-hand side. Just not the kind of run we're used to seeing from Tom Martin and the Super Trooper. And indeed, it is not enough to get him into the shootout today. 2.008, a disappointing shot for Tom Martin and the Super Trooper. So the Fast Four go into the shootout. The S-Kicker, Let's Boogie, Mystic Warrior, and Mud Patrol. Gold Fever barely misses out. Ron Smith will have to take it on home with Beef Tea Blue, Psychotic Beast, a disappointed Tom Martin and Super Trooper, and Midnight Magic rounding out the first round competition.
Fastest mudders in Providence are ready to go here on Super Tracks. Once again, it's S-Kicker, Let's Boogie, Mystic Warrior, and Mud Patrol. And once again, here's Scott Douglas.
A rabid crowd getting it on and having a good time in Providence, Rhode Island with the U.S. Hot Rod Association Mud Stars. The S-Kicker, Let's Boogie, Mystic Warrior, and Mud Patrol laid down the 4 best shots in the first round, but that means nothing now. All those times are wiped out, and everybody has to do it one more time.
It's getting pretty bad there at the end. Hopefully we can do about the same we did the first round.
When you said pretty bad, what do you mean?
The starting line's getting real rutted up. The pit's staying good, but the starting line's going away.
How's S-Kicker performing?
We got the fastest time so far. Hopefully it holds up.
The track has been going away. It may be an advantage for S-Kicker to go first here in the shootout. And he does get it stopped down, but Jeremy Finley doesn't look like a real happy man. That was not an outstanding run, but we just don't know how bad the mud pit is and that starting line is at this point to tell if that's going to hold up. Really wild start. You could see how the front wheel got kicked way up in the air, and here he's starting almost to leave the pit on the side. Jeremy Finley did not seem thrilled with that run. Let's watch it from the side angle, and you're going to see him veer way off to the right as the driver faces the track, and that had to cost him a little bit of time. The S-Kicker and Jeremy Finley much slower than his earlier run. The distance is covered in 2.089. But we'll find out where that lands him in the shootout because everybody has to lay down a new shot.
Yeah, it feels pretty good considering last night we had some major problems with the motor. We did a lot of work today, changed everything drastically, and it seemed to help. We just got to make a couple small changes and we'll be ready to come back.
What drastic changes did you make?
Oh, we put a new ignition in the car, changed the fuel system completely, and just tried something different to get her to work again.
Amazing what Let's Boogie had to do to make it here into the shootout. Let's see if Tony's made the right change. It stops in time, and Let's Boogie lays down what he hopes will be a run to put him in the #1 spot. Coming right at you on Super Tracks. Tony Fiore and Let's Boogie. Boy, it seemed like a nice solid run. Stayed right in the middle of the track. Did not have too many problems with the ruts and shuts it down in good shape. Little bit of wheel spin at the line. He didn't really get off as clean as I'm sure he would have liked. I don't know if that cost him much or not. We're going to find out. Here comes the time. At least for the moment, it puts him in first place. Let's Boogie at 2.002 is now the time to beat. Here comes the kid, Matt Ward, out of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I went out to the start line. There was one set of ruts right there at the start line. One side was real deep, one side wasn't. So I took to against the left-hand side of it to get out those ruts. I think at the start line, I smoked tires a little bit, and I let off about 5 feet right at the finish line. So I got stopped in time. But it worked out.
Matt Ward, what do you think of the track?
The tracks, I like the track. It's nice, it's fast track. I think we'll do good in the final round.
We're going to find out because here comes the confident kid, 19-year-old Matt Ward and the Mystic Warrior. Boy, you can see why he had that confidence. That is an outstanding-looking run from Matt Ward. Although, look at his face. He doesn't seem thrilled with it. Didn't seem real excited about it, although to this eye, it looked pretty good. Let's watch the Ford machine coming at you. I'll tell you, he doesn't have many problems in there. Didn't get kicked around by the ruts at all. Got a good start. We'll get another angle at it, see if we can detect anything wrong. Of course, Matt Ward, the kid, is a perfectionist, and he may have thought he could have got a little more out of it. I'll tell you what he did get out of it, enough to take the lead. The time for Mystic Warrior, 1.967. He's got the lead. He could finish no worse than second, but he wants to win. Here's the Mud Patrol and Paul Schaefer.
Well, what I did to the car, the track is getting so rough and bouncy. What we're doing is putting a lot more air pressure in the tires, trying to get the tires to break loose and skid across the top, not hit the holes. When the tire's real low, it bounces down and acts like a shock and it pushes the whole front end up off the ground. We're trying to keep the car level and straight across the mud.
Good lesson in how you set up for the mud racing shootout from the Mud Patrol and Paul Schaefer. Oh my, he barely stopped it in time. The U.S. hot rod officials, though, are saying, yes, indeed, it's a legal run. He did not touch the barrier at the end, which would have DQ'd him. They'll now disconnect the kill switch cables while we wait to see if his time is good enough to beat Matt Ward's 1.967. Let's watch it again. And there's the bounce that Paul was talking about in the interview we had a moment ago. The extra air pressure kept him on top of the mud without sinking in. Was it good enough to get the win? We're going to find out after one more look at the replay. Paul Schaefer and the Mud Patrol out of Portage, Indiana, riding along, skimming across the top. And here comes the time. He needed to beat 1.967. Paul Schaefer and the Mud Patrol, 1.908. It is a championship run for Paul Schaefer and Mud Patrol. He wins it in Providence. The kid, Matt Ward, goes second. Then it's Tony Fiore third and Jeremy Finley rounding out the Fast Four. There's your winner, Paul Schaefer, coming out of the cab, that 1932 Ford Coupe of the Mud Patrol. He's going to go over and talk to our Steve McDonald about that run today as Mud Patrol takes the victory.
Oh, it's a big win, but Tom Martin got the car ready, and he's been trying new stuff with it, and he's been experimenting, and now I think he's got to go home and change his like he got this. This car is really running good.
Talk about the changes and how they help.
We changed air pressure, shocks, and for the rough tracks. The car's got so much motor from Vance in his engine. They build a race motor, and they got so much horsepower. We've been killing the motors and, you know, cutting the horsepower down.
Strategy going into this one?
Oh, yeah, I had to find a good spot to line up. I didn't know where to line up. It was like 5 different passes out there, and I just picked the right one.
Boy, I'll bet Tom Martin is about ready to just kick himself for turning Mud Patrol over to Paul Schaefer. Tom couldn't lose when he drove it. Now Paul is the one standing in the winner's circle more than anybody else. And how about young Matt Ward? He continues to show the old guys how it's done. He is really a superstar in the making on the mud racing circuit.